Hi, welcome back to our channel. And obviously today I have with me my pet dogs. This is Dilys. She's in one of her Christmas jumpers today, and she's sat in her little basket by the side of me there. And on this side of me, waiting for a belly rub, it's Pippi, and I shall get her to show you that. Come here, my darling girl. Come here. Here she is. And she's in her Christmas jumper too. They have got outfits that I bought yesterday. Well, Pippi has a Santa Claus outfit, and Dilys has a Santa's helper outfit. Perhaps they'll wear that next time we're on. I'm just going to take Pippi back so I can talk to you about pet therapy. So, as you can see from my dogs, I find them very therapeutic. I'm stroking them now, you do it without thinking. They allow you to cuddle them, they don't expect anything in return, and they are very therapeutic, I find. Pet therapy can obviously be used at home as well as in school. And I've obviously used it at home, and I've also used it in schools actually. And I've also advised schools on its use, for dogs. That's where I've advised schools. Some dog associations frown on its use, but I've used it and found it very beneficial in schools, to be honest. I've used it in some schools where we've paid for the dog therapists to come into the schools and bring dogs in with them, and then they tend to come on a weekly basis, and they may go around classes, or they may have been booked to go to one class in particular. So let's think then about what we need if we're thinking first of all about a school, and where obviously you have to have policies, risk assessments, permission slips, rules and regulations. And I would say a public liability insurance is very, very important. And I certainly took out a public liability insurance at the school where I was head. I had my own dog in the school. That public liability insurance was £3 million. But I would recommend that if you are thinking of having a dog in school, that you do take out a public liability insurance to cover yourself and to cover students, visitors, the dog itself, and so on. If you've got a child in school who's allergic, then obviously you don't want them near the dog, but you will have sent home a pet permission slip for parents to give permission for their child to be in contact with the dog when you're using the dog as a therapeutic kind of intervention. And by their return slip, you will know whether or not that child's allergic, or whether the parents actually find that the children have difficulty if there's a dog around. We did have that, strangely enough, in where the parents gave permission, but did warn us that the daughter was nervous of dogs. And by having Pippi in the school, because it was Pippi that was in the school, as a young puppy, she was non-threatening to the little girl, and the little girl got to like dogs as a result of Pippi being in the school. So we need to, children having a dog, whether it's in school or at home, need to always remain calm around the dog, okay? There should be no sudden movements. You shouldn't stare into a dog's eyes, as this could feel threatening to a dog, to be honest. They shouldn't put their face near a dog. you know, that's asking for trouble, to be honest. If you put your face up to a dog, I know of a little boy recently who was at a party and was playing and having great fun and chasing and playing with the dog, and then put his face up to the dog, and the dog actually scrammed him right by the eye. Now, that there was a bit of rough play going on, and I would say as well is that there shouldn't be rough play encouraged with dogs, because they can just take it that little bit too far without meaning to. All right, so I wouldn't recommend any rough play. I would say never go near a dog when they're sleeping or eating, because when they're sleeping, you don't know what they're dreaming about. They could be dreaming about fighting another dog, and you just actually wake them up at that time. And obviously, you don't go near them when they're eating something. All right, because they could attack you. And certainly, I know of a dog who attacked a cat for exactly that reason, because the cat went after the bowl of food and the dog would not. And unfortunately, the dog was a Staffordshire Bull Terrier and couldn't let go of the grip. Wanted to, because it actually slept with the cat at the night time in the same basket. So, you know, don't go near a dog who's sleeping or eating. Don't let your other pets go near them. Children or anybody really shouldn't eat near a dog, because that dog hasn't got the same control over eating that you have, and may want some of that food. All right, so you're going to get a whining dog. You're going to get a dog who's constantly wanting some of that food. Dogs express their feelings through body language. So if they growl or bare their teeth, it means that they're feeling threatened or angry. Flattened ears, the tail lowered or between their legs, or hiding behind their owner, or even whining, suggests that they are scared or frightened and they need removing from the situation that they're in. You should wash your hands after handling a dog. That goes really without saying. And dog fowl obviously should always be cleaned up. Research has shown that participating schools where dogs were used to improve children's behaviour, the violent behaviour went down by 55%, and the general aggression in that school went down by 62%. Not in that school, in those schools. Dogs are used in some schools to assist with reading, and dogs seem to listen. They give unconditional acceptance, and they're non-judgmental of that reading. The benefits I've seen have been, you know, huge. You know, some of the boys have come purposely to collect the dog when they on heading for a meltdown in class, and the assistants and the teacher very wisely realised that, you know, they know that that child will benefit from taking the dog off for a walk or grooming or whatever, and will come and get the dog to calm that child down. And it's changed some of those children, possibly changed their lives. Some of the children would come and play with them on a regular basis at a certain time of day, and that would be a promise to them that they would look forward to. So they were used extremely successfully. And while Pippi was in the school, the children would write love letters to Pippi and pictures of Pippi and so on that would be posted under my door, delivered to me and so on. Some parents bought presents that the children wanted Pippi to have. All in all, it was such a good experience, and I would recommend it to any schoolers. Of course, I would recommend dogs to any home. Obviously, at home, you would have your own versions of risk assessments and rules and regulations regarding your dog. That's the only sensible approach to have. You wouldn't just willy-nilly buy a dog and expect your child to be able to behave appropriately around a dog without some guidance. And certainly, you know, a child might think it's okay to feed the dog as many times as the dog seems to require it. So there has to be guidance from you regarding looking after a dog. Having a dog at home or in school encourages responsibility, obviously, and it helps develop social skills because they do talk to the dogs and such a lot. And it shows them and helps them how to care for animals. and walking them and grooming them and so on, you know, so it's very, very good in those areas. In the foreword to Bird Therapy, a book by Joe Harkness, Chris Packham details how he himself tried to commit suicide and how having a dog saved his life. Everyone experiences mental issues on an individual basis. Just as everyone with autism is different, so is everyone with a mental health issue susceptible, as anxiety, obsessive compulsion disorders, pathological demand avoidance, etc. And most of us have tiny little bits of these issues, and they should only be diagnosed when they're having a detrimental effect on their lives. What was the first bird that you took notice of? Talking of birds, as Joe Harkness was in his book. For me, it was a pigeon, because my dad bred pigeons. And of course, you know, people also have aviaries of other birds. But my dad, was a pigeon fancier, as they were called. And so my dad would breed pigeons, he would show pigeons in shows, and he would fly pigeons in races. And I learned at a very early age how to care for birds and how to look after them, and the kind of illnesses that they might get and what we had to do to combat those illnesses. So birds help children, and obviously the person who's breeding and flying them and so on, racing them and so on, to develop again social skills and responsibility. I knew of one of my sister's boyfriends who had his own aviary and absolutely delighted in that. And when he was having his own mental health issues, he could lose himself in the aviary, and that would help him to overcome any of the issues that he was having. Now, bird watching is different to taking care of birds and breeding birds and flying birds and so on. Bird watching is entirely different, but it's still therapeutic. And it can range from getting to know birds in your garden and how they behave and interact, and feeding them, taking out food, and finding ways to display that so that they can actually access it without your cat perhaps or your dog barking at it. So sometimes when people are stressed, they would go out and bird watch and feel better for it because it's very therapeutic. The outside world all around them that was troubling them or wherever is completely shut out as they concentrate on the bird that they're trying to find, you know, the area that they're looking through to find out which birds are in that area, in the same way that you would perhaps keep a log of the birds that came to your garden. The only attention that you give is obviously to the bird or the animals that we talked about, and it allows you to escape from the reality that may be troubling you at that time. The flow of what you're doing carries you along, and you're so involved that you detach yourself from everything else. When you're watching for birds and so on, you're listening so carefully that you have an acute awareness of any movements that are around in the trees and so on as you're watching. And you learn to identify birds. And it's a very therapeutic pastime to have. It's something that you could do with your children and something that you could encourage them to be, I think they're called twitchers. There's another kind of animal therapy, there's many actually, but equine assisted therapy is one that I've used in schools as well. RDA centres are centres where Riding for the Disabled Association, it stands for. But the child hasn't got to be severely disabled to be able to go to one of those centres. And I would highly recommend them. They can be used by you from home, or they can be used perhaps a school will use an RDA centre to send some of its children, and certainly I've done that in the past, and I have known of many parents who carried on taking their children there as an extra treat for them because they enjoy it and get so much out of it. So children get to, when you take them to an RDA centre, certainly to start off with, you get them used to the horses, and they may stroke them and so on beforehand, so that you know that they're fully prepared and wish to go on the horse. And then they get a lot out of riding the horse and learning how to ride a horse. A lot of enjoyment. Others that we've taken didn't actually want to get on a horse. They just found it unbearable to actually do that. But they did want to get to know the horses. And so they would groom them, they would feed them, and they may lead them if they didn't actually want to sit on the horse and trot and so on. There's another kind of therapy, which is feline assisted therapy, which are cats. And obviously they can't give the same kind of therapy as a dog or a horse, for instance, or birds. But anyone who's had a cat on their lap whilst listening to an audio book or watching the TV will know the therapeutic benefits that can bring. Iris Grace is a book by Annabella Carter Johnson, and it's a book about how a cat changed the life of a little girl with autism. There are many other pets that give their owners a therapeutic benefit without their owners even being aware that they're having these benefits. I hope that this has helped you understand some of the therapeutic benefits of having pets, and perhaps this may help you choose a pet for your child. Even a tortoise gives therapeutic benefit to children, because it gives them responsibility, helps them to care for them, helps them to find out about that animal, gives them something to do in the morning, something to look forward to feed them and so on. And so there are many other animals, gerbils, hamsters and so on, that give the same kind of therapeutic benefit to children and even to adults who have may have mental health issues and could do with something to distract them from that, and something to think about where the rest of the world just disappears as you care and think about that particular animal. Anyway, it's goodbye from us. My goodness. Oh, and Pippi's jumped up to join us, and it's goodbye from our gorgeous Pippi. I love my dogs. Bye-bye.